Hello and welcome to 64 Squares Official. Today's game features two of the most fearless competitors in modern chess. Arjun Erigaisi takes on Hans Niemann in round 3 of the Chennai Grandmasters 2026, producing a thrilling Catalan battle packed with brilliant ideas, dangerous pass pawns, and an outstanding endgame technique. Arjun Erigaisi is one of India's strongest grandmasters and a regular member of the world's elite, famous for his dynamic calculation, tactical awareness, and excellent endgame technique. Comfortable in both sharp tactical battles and long strategic struggles, playing with the white pieces, Arjun chose the Catalan, an opening that combines positional pressure with long-term strategic ideas. Hans Niemann, on the other hand, is an aggressive American grandmaster known for uncompromising fighting chess, frequently chooses active counterplay rather than passive defense, excellent at creating practical problems over the board. Against the Catalan, Hans adopted a solid setup before gradually transforming the position into a highly tactical middle game. So now let's jump into the game. Knight to f3, Arjun begins flexibly, avoiding immediate commitment and keeping multiple openings available. Now d5, Hans occupies the center. Now c4, e6, preparing solid queen's gambit structures. Now g3, the Catalan setup appears. Now knight to f6, natural development. Now bishop to g2, the bishop is developed to its ideal diagonal. Now bishop to e7, preparing kingside castling. Now d4, white claims center space. Now black goes for kingside castling. Black safely castles. Now knight to c3. More development. Knight b to d7. Supporting the center. Now knight to e5. An active knight jump, increasing central pressure. Now c6. A typical Catalan structure. Now kingside castling. King safety first. Now knight takes e5. Hans decides to exchange the active knight. Now d takes e5, attacking the knight. White keeps a strong pawn center. Now knight to d7. The knight heads toward better squares. Now c takes d5. Arjun opens the center. Now e takes d5. Balanced structure restored. Now f4. A very ambitious move. White grabs kingside space while supporting the e5 pawn. f5. Hans mirrors white's expansion. The position becomes strategically locked. Now bishop to e3, developing while eyeing queenside squares. Now knight to b6. The knights head toward a c4. Now queen to c2, supporting the center while preparing rook activity. Now bishop to e6, completing development. Rook f to d1, pressure on the d file. Knight to c4, attacking the e3 bishop. Excellent outpost. The knight becomes very active. Now bishop to f2, protecting important dark squares. Now queen to a5, increasing pressure on the queen side. Now b3, attacking the knight, questioning the advanced knight. Now knight goes to a3, attacking the queen. The knight finds another excellent square. Now queen to b2, maintaining pressure on the b file and e5. Rook a to c8, black fully mobilizes. Now rook a to c1. White also contests the c file. Rook f to d8. Both rooks now occupy central files. The opening phase is complete. Now rook to d4. A creative rook lift. The rook prepares to swing across the board while defending key pawns. Now b5. Preparing for b4 ideas. Hans starts queenside expansion. Now rook c to d1. Doubling rooks on the d file. And b4. Driving away white's knight. Now knight to a4, the only safe retreat. Knight to b5, attacking the rook on d4. But this is a mistake, and queen to a6 was the suggested move here. Now rook 4 to d3, maintaining control. Now d4, excellent breakthrough. Black gains space and opened lines. Now bishop takes d4. Arjun eliminates the advanced pawn. Now c5, immediately attacking the bishop. Now bishop goes e3, retreating while maintaining activity. Now c4, attacking the rook. Strong pass pawn. Now black gains a serious queenside initiative. Now bishop to d5, counterplay. White attacks black's bishop and increases tactical pressure. Now bishop takes d5. Hans exchanges bishop. Now rook takes d5. The rook becomes active. Now knight to a3. The knight again occupies the powerful a3 square. Now rook takes a5. Excellent tactical shot. White wins black's queen and creates material imbalance. Now rook takes d1 with a check. Hans immediately activates his rook with a check. A tactical sequence begins. Now king to f2. King steps towards safety. Now c3, attacking the queen. A dangerous pass pawn. Black's compensation becomes obvious. Now queen to c1. Now rook takes c1. Black removes white's queen. Now bishop takes c1. White recaptures, queens are now off the board. The game enters a complicated queenless middle game. Now rook to c7, centralizing the rook. The c-pawn remains dangerous. Now e4, Arjun strikes in the center, excellent practical decision. Now knight to c2, fork ideas appear, the knight becomes extremely active. E takes f5, white wins the f-pawn. Now knight to d4, the knight heads toward dominant central squares. Now g4, supporting the f5 pawn. An aggressive move, Arjun begins expanding on the king side. Now bishop to h4 check, excellent tactical check, the bishop becomes active. King to e3, attacking the knight. The king centralizes. Now rook to d7, comes in support of d4 knight. A very strong improving move. Hans brings his rook behind the pass pawn while coordinating all his pieces. Now e6, attacking the rook. A brilliant breakthrough. Instead of passively defending, Arjun creates a dangerous pass pawn on his own. Now knight to c2 check. Hans keeps checking. Now king to f3. Now rook to d3 check. Another forcing move. Now king to e2. Rook to h3, attacking the pawn on h2. Black attacks white's kingside pawns from behind. Now rook to d5. Excellent rook activity. The rook both attacks and supports the advanced e-pawn. Now knight to e1. Here is a mistake. Bishop to e7 was the best suggested move here. Black searches for tactical chances. Now g5. A very strong move. White drives the bishop away while supporting future promotion ideas. Now king to f8. Hans finally brings the king toward the center. White's initiative is becoming stronger despite black's dangerous c-pawn. Now knight to c5. An outstanding knight maneuver. The knight attacks important squares while supporting the rook. Now c2. Black pushes the pass pawn to the second rank. This looks frightening, but white's pieces are now perfectly coordinated. Now rook to d8 check. Excellent precision. The rook invades the check, forcing the king backward. Now king to e7, attacking the rook, the only move here. Now rook to d7 check, another check. The rook dominates the 7th rank and keeps black's king under constant pressure. Now king to e8, the king has nowhere productive to go. Now knight to b7, the finishing move. White knights jump into a dominant square, attacking key targets while supporting the rook and controlling promotion squares. Black's rook and bishop are tied down. The advanced c-pawn cannot save the position and white's threats are overwhelming. Recognizing that he cannot stop white's decisive invasion and eventual material gains, Hans Niemann resigned in this position. Now let's take a look at some of the key turning points of the game. d4 on move 22, Hans launched the first major pawn break, seizing the initiative. And on move 24, c4, black created a dangerous pass pawn and obtained a dynamic compensation. And rook takes a5, Arjun accepted material while trusting his defensive resources. This was on move 27. And e6 on move 35, the critical breakthrough. White transformed a defensive position into an active one by creating a dangerous passed e-pawn. This was on move 35. And rook to d5 on move 38, the rook became the strongest piece on the board, simultaneously attacking and defending. And knight to c5 on move 40, a superb knight maneuver that neutralizes black's counterplay. And rook to d8 check on move 41, rook to d7 check on move 42. The decisive rook invasion forced black into a passive position. And knight to b7, the final tactical touch. Black's position collapsed under the combined pressure of white's active rook and a dangerous pass pawn. This was a fascinating strategic and a tactical battle in the closed Catalan. Hans Niemann generated excellent counterplay with an advanced passed c-pawn and active pieces, seemingly compensating for his material deficit. However, Arjun Erigaisi remained calm under pressure, finding the powerful breakthrough with the e6 on move 35, which shifted the momentum completely. Superb rook activity on the 7th rank, accurate king placement and precise coordination between his knight and bishops gradually neutralized black's threats. Although black's pass pawn reached c2, it ultimately proved insufficient against white's dominant piece activity. Facing unstoppable threats after knight to b7, Hans resigned, giving Arjun a hard-fought and technically impressive victory. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a like and subscribe the channel. So that's it for today. See you in the next one.